representation is a word I like to really use and apply it. And on our leadership meetings, I talk about how do we become tomorrow's representation team? How are we thinking about not only where the athlete is today, but where they're actually trying to go? And how can we authentically help them without it being anything in it for us?
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of SBJ's On Stage. I'm your host, Taylor Bloom. Today's episode features Rich Paul, founder and CEO of KLUTCH Sports Group and head of sports at United Talent Agency. He's in conversation with Zach Leonsis, the president of media and new enterprises at Monumental Sports and Entertainment. The conversation was recorded on October 29th, 2024 at the SBJ Dealmakers conference in Washington, D.C., just as KLUTCH and Monumental were announcing a new strategic partnership. Zach guides the conversation, but this one's really about Rich. He opens up about how he built KLUTCH, what it means to represent athletes in today's environment, and how power and purpose evolve as your platform grows. It's thoughtful, unfiltered, evergreen, and full of great business lessons. Let's go on stage.
Thank you for taking your seats, and what a killer introduction. I wanted an introduction like that. Was awesome.
Yeah, that
was great.
Thank you.
Perhaps most importantly to me, though, Rich, we've been friends for over a decade now, and I really appreciate you coming to Washington and doing this. And obviously, we've had relationships on the basketball side, and now we're doing even more together on the business side in terms of our sponsorships and marketing representation for the soon-to-be renovated Capital One Arena too, which is pretty exciting. We'll touch on that in a little bit. So we're going to jump right into things, and we'll focus at the start on KLUTCH, sort of the core business, and where all of this sort of blossomed out of. And it was first announced when it was first announced that KLUTCH was going to be joining forces with UTA. You said, "quote, the innovation, resources, and talent at UTA is going to supercharge everything we can do and together at KLUTCH." 5 years later, has that proven out to be the case?
Yeah, very much so. You know, anytime you go into a partnership, you know, I look at it as more of a sibling type of relationship, big brother, little brother dynamic, and it's been great. One of the analogies I use with our partnership with UTA is we're the tractor, they're the trailer. When I say there, I'm on that side as well, being a board member and also a colleague and executive there. And it's just, you know, when you scale a business, I like to scale with strategy and with expertise coming along with it. And the partnership with UTA has done that. And the cool thing about it is we're really just getting the rhythm. Remember, COVID really, it was 2019, the first week we moved into the office was that Monday, and then the world shut down that Thursday. And so, but it's been great. As you can see, we're gaining a lot of momentum, the work we're doing with you guys at Monumental, as well as some of the other work we've done, really building the commercial side of the business while maintaining the representation side of the business and, you know, empowering both the athletes on all respective fields, and as far as the WNBA and the NBA for that matter. So it's been great.
And increasingly other leagues too.
Yeah, other leagues as well. You know, I'm really focused on acquiring a lot of different companies at this point, which has been great. We acquired Roof, which is a German-based football club, which has representation across all the leagues, Premier and Champions League, et cetera, which has been really cool as well. I've spent a lot of time international, but it's been great.
It's awesome. You know, you raise a good point in terms of not all acquisitions and partnerships work. It's particularly challenging when you're trying to integrate and do something during a pandemic or at the start of a pandemic when you don't know it's going to end. You know, KLUTCH still operates as a distinct and separate entity from UTA. How do you harmonize sort of the strategies and the brands? How does it all work and come together?
You know, when Jeremy and I sat down, I think that was one of the things that he knew was important to me. You know, building something that at its core is not just institutional based or all about corporate. There's a feel, there's a culture there, and I didn't want to change that. I wanted to be able to continue to provide opportunities for those that those opportunities may not be available to them per se. In addition to maintaining that asset that we've been able to grow organically that you just can't duplicate, and money can't really buy it. And so why would you? It's like, that's kind of like putting a cloud in front of a sunny day, and I didn't want to do that. And he knew the importance of that. And so again, just that respect within the partnership was something that I was able to identify within UTA very fast, and it's been true to itself for sure.
So obviously we talked about KLUTCH, but you're also on the board of directors of LACMA, UTA you mentioned, Designer Brands Inc., and Live Nation. Obviously,
yes.
Live Nation is partnered with us at Monumental and so many other teams, so influential and important in the sports entertainment industry. How have your experiences on those various boards informed and improved the services that you can offer to players?
I've approached the board's positionings with just being a sponge, going into these meetings very open-minded, wanting to learn as much as I can how other industries kind of operate, and the characteristics and the behavior patterns of these successful entities like a Live Nation, which, Michael's not a guy of long board meetings, but when Michael called and asked me would I be on the board, I said, of course. I mean, it's Live Nation. The verticals that they have built at Live Nation, as well as the foundation of obviously live entertainment, is something that has an integration with sports as well. And so I wanted to learn that side. And then a company like Designer Brands, when you're talking about the consumer and just product, being able to take, kind of like distressed assets and buying them and growing them and dealing with, the mass consumer across so many different verticals, again, was a very educational thing. And LACMA was a passion thing. I wish I learned more about art when I was sleeping in study hall, or maybe gambling in study hall per se. But today, I'm on the acquisition committee and I'm on the education committee. I've been there for I think the last 3 or 4 years, and actually with my rookie class, we normally go to the LACMA to try to educate them and push them that when they're in these cities, instead of sitting in your room or going to a hookah bar or something, go to a gallery or go to a museum and really build the relationships around these cities that you go to. I just felt I got bit by the art bug, and so it's something that I became really passionate about, and try to kind of lend back that education to those that probably, because everything is art, right? Whether it's fashion or it's abandoned house, everything is telling a story the way I look at it, and so I try to kind of pay it forward in a way to our clients, and some of them are really dialing in for sure, and so that was more of a passion thing. But it's still, the people on that board with me are very successful.
Impressive group.
Yeah, very impressive group, and I ask a ton of questions for sure.
That's awesome. So we're in Washington, D.C. Next week is a pretty important week with Election Day looming over all of us. I think most people in this room will look forward to getting to the other side of next week. When you're advising clients and athletes who want to be more involved from a social responsibility perspective, they want their voices to be heard. Unfortunately, it's such a polarized time right now. How are you advising your clients? How do you allow them to be their authentic selves while also sort of maintaining their platform and whatnot?
We advise them to be educated before speaking about anything. A lot of guys get out and they talk about voting, and then if you really check, they're not even registered to vote. That's kind of embarrassing.
Small detail.
Yeah. So I think, again, I said it there, don't lead a strategy based upon trying to gain attention or doing something just because everyone else is doing it. I think your political choice obviously is your choice, but be educated on any topic for that matter, whether it's political, whether it's business, whatever the case may be. We try to help the guys, and we send our communications team sends out different summaries of different topics that may have happened, just in case guys are asked questions in the media after a game or something like that. That way they can understand the topic or whatnot and have some feeling around it. But it's just always been really educate yourself first, keeping it pretty simple.
Yep, makes sense. Remind me, were you in the NBA bubble back in 2020?
I was. That was yeah.
And I could imagine.
Not long as everyone else though. I only went for the finals, so.
Tell us the story from the bubble, because that was a charged time with a lot going on in culture and whatnot.
Yeah, the bubble was very interesting because we were separated. So family and I think the owners of the teams were in one bubble, and then the players were in another bubble, and we couldn't cross, we couldn't visit them. It was extremely interesting. Being tested, I think we were tested twice a day or maybe even 3 times a day, like every day, like literally every day. And, you know, when I look back on it, it was kind of peaceful in a way, if that makes sense.
Got away from it all.
Yeah, you kind of got away from it all, but at the same time, every time we got tested, they would call you, and it's like, Mr. Paul, and then you're like, damn, am I negative or positive or whatever the case may be? I'm like, just call me with the answer. Like, it's clear, you're good to go. But they would kind of draw it out a little bit, which was a little dramatic. But, you know, actually, we made a positive thing in the bubble. We made 3 hires in the bubble, actually. We were interviewing, everyone from the NBA was there.
Didn't stop,
Yeah, so we actually brought over 3 people from the NBA, 1 in finance, 1 in comms, and 1 in marketing, which they have been a tremendous value add for us. So the bubble was
productive.
Yeah, very productive for us.
That's great.
Yeah. And we had 6 guys win a championship, so it was a good bubble.
It was a good bubble for you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about media. The bubble was all about playing games for media, so we could fulfill our media obligations at the local level and the national level. You're now working and have oversight over 4440 Media. And you know, it's a media and content company that produces unscripted, scripted, digital, audio, and sports content. What are some recent and upcoming projects you can tell us about that you're particularly excited and proud of?
We have a lot of things in the work. I think the biggest thing we're excited about is probably Juju's project, which we're working on, and Juju and her family are pretty tough. You know, they push back on a lot, which they should be, you know. And so working on her project is pretty cool. You know, 44 Media, like, content is king, we know that. And we wanted to be able to partner with our clients to kind of help them, you know, execute things at a high level, or tell stories, or even have things come into us. Opportunities come into us that we can attach.
How do you filter through that?
Everybody wants it's something like this. If someone comes to us and say, you know, we want to tell the story about the city of Seattle and how they produce so many stars or basketball professionals, and also the ones that don't make it. Well, we have DeJounte Murray and Zach Leonsis. We automatically think of those guys being executive producers like right away, because it's authentic to them. And it's seamless, right? They don't have to do much but attach their name to it. But then there's also things like, you know, having ownership in Mitchell and Ness, and Mitchell and Ness, you know, everyone knows my Mitchell and Ness story. But went to Michael Rubin like, hey, I want to do the Mitchell and Ness doc, and it just so happened the guys who did the Kanye doc, Cootie and Chike, had a lot of the footage to have a doc made already. So working with guys like that and Michael to try to produce the Mitchell and Ness doc to create awareness and culture of the brand of Mitchell and Ness, since he's purchased it and allowed me to be a part of that purchasing team. So things like that, amongst other things as well. Legacy plays, just different things that come about, and obviously having the resources at UTA makes that vertical a lot stronger with the expertise that comes there. And so that's something that we're really excited about, but we want to do it in a tasteful manner, if that makes sense.
For sure. You know, so that media organization is a good example of the agency sort of operating outside of the norms of the
very much so.
Agency services and whatnot.
Yeah.
What else are you guys planning? What else do you think you want to launch into, leveraging UTA, leveraging KLUTCH, leveraging the relationship that you have with the
Yeah, you know, I always talk about in our our leadership meetings, just how do we build and I don't consider myself an agent, believe it or not. I think agents, no offense to anybody that's actually an agent, I just don't want to only think about the transaction. And a lot of times, that's 98% of the job, right? I try to be somebody in the room that adds value no matter what we're doing. It could be picking out curtains or furniture, whatever the case may be.
How would you redecorate this room?
Well, I'll get rid of these red lighting for sure, but to start. But you know, like I think representation is a word I like to really use and apply it. And on our leadership meetings, I talk about how do we become tomorrow's representation team? How are we thinking about not only where the athlete is today, but where they're actually trying to go? And how can we authentically help them without it being anything in it for us, per se? Because, you know, oftentimes, again, everything has been about the transaction. And when you're in these rooms, I always say to athletes, I'm like, just because you've known somebody a long time, or just because you want to feel good about giving somebody an opportunity, and I'm a beneficiary of just that, they also have to have the capabilities. And I feel like I look at an athlete just as no different than I look at a writer's room trying to develop the next Cleveland show, or, you know, Bob's Burgers or whatever, or the next Succession. You need that strategic team around you to help ideate, because talent is just talent a lot of times, right? But when talent plus ideation, strategizing, and then having the capabilities to actually execute, that actually builds a business. And I've been a part of it, you know. I don't think, obviously, LeBron's not in the position he's in just strictly based on talent. There was a lot of decisions that we made that wasn't popular. There was a lot of decisions that were made. There was a lot of conversations in rooms that, you know, we were bumping heads a lot, but it was for the right reasons. And, you know, I just carry that no matter max player, minimum player. I carry that because, look, we represent T. Lue. T. Lue has made much more. He's been more successful as a coach than he was as a player, right? And so I try to get our guys and girls to understand, like, look at the entire ecosystem of sport and decide where you want to be. And while you're playing the game, do the things that can help get you closer to doing those other things, because right now sports is the leading thing across globally. It's sports. It's not movies for sure, right? It's sports.
Certainly durable and intertwined with people's personalities,
right,
their identities.
And so you may start in one place, but you can potentially end up somewhere else. And, you know, like I look at our relationship with your dad and yourself, it's been over a decade, and you guys have been extremely supportive, right? But how I positioned myself and carried myself and actually listened when your dad actually talked, maybe it played a role in the relationship, you know, now that we're doing on the commercial side. I don't know if it did or it didn't. I imagine it had some percentage of it, right? So I always think about it from that perspective, and then as a company, we want to think about it from that perspective too. And so just how do we, you know, it's one thing to scale, but to scale with expertise and strategy and know-how and maintain that culture, right, and that character. And it's another thing to you have to lean up as well. You have to lean more towards best practice and kind of lose weight of mediocrity within the environment.
Relationships matter, and I appreciate what you said a couple minutes ago, and that, yeah, you're an agent, but you're really a business person. You've got relationships. You're not transactional. Transactional relationships will only get you so far. You got a real relationship. You can get some really exciting things.
We know this, but the fax machine agents for many years, they never thought to build a business. You know, it's all about the transaction. And I'm gonna dust my fax machine off during the time of free agency, and then do the deals, and then
see you in a year.
Wait till the next year. And I should have came through a system where I went to such and such Inc. and kind of was developed, and I don't believe in the mailroom, but worked in some capacity at a lower level and was developed. That didn't exist, and so I said, I'll just build it, and then hopefully when I'm long gone away from Clutch, I can look back and that is actually happening. Like that's, to me, that will really exude what success looked like for me.
That's awesome. So obviously, it's well publicized. Everyone knows about your representation of great high-profile athletes, but now you guys are getting into the brand space, and we at Monumental just signed you on, as we mentioned, to help us drive partnership revenue and new partnership ideas as part of our $815 million building renovation, which will begin in 2025. What was the point in time when you saw the opportunity to leverage the skill set, the platform, the relationships that you had built to get into the brand space? Why was it the right fit? Why was it the right time?
Well, I think it came with a number of things. One, look, someone like yourself who is a lot different than your dad, you think different. And so you can't have the same old guard for many years coming in the same rooms. Your decision making is going to be different. You're looking for a different taste. So I felt there was the right opportunity, in addition to, again, not just relying on just a transaction of something and wanting to be on the player representation side, but really building out the commercial side. Felt like the brand was strong enough and had a reputation that around all the leagues was respected and seeing kind of its growth. Mm-hmm. And then actually finding the people, finding a guy like Andrew Feinberg, finding Karen Rossoff, just newly added Maria to the group in terms of brand consulting and things like that. And so you got to crawl before you walk, and we had to take the baby steps. Look, it took me a long time to just not be in basketball, and then to go into football, and then to go into baseball, and then international football. It's the same thing on the commercial side, but we've actually had some success. But again, you're going to get people that actually were able to come from what I would say is somewhat of best practice places, right? Versus on the representation side, you're kind of building that along the way because it actually didn't exist. And no offense, but it probably wasn't necessary as well, right? Because I think oftentimes people around talent and also talent being led, being ego-led, don't value expertise and things like that. So it's very hard to build from that perspective. And so now we're looking at this landscape of Clutch and all that it provides and its capabilities. 2012, I couldn't imagine being where we are today. And, you don't get here by yourself. As you know, Fair and I started the company, and we played every role. And to look and see, we started with 2, and we have 168 staff members today, which is incredible. So
Fair's the best. Tell her I say hi. What was the biggest lesson in getting in the brand space? What was the biggest difference between that and the player side?
I think it was, again, we were so young. It was kind of similar, because when I first got into this is my 23rd season around the business, in the business. This is my year, 12 or going on 13, owning my own business, leading my own business. But when I first got in, I used to go into recruiting meetings, and the parents would be there, and they would be waiting, and we would be waiting, and kind of hobnobbing, talking, and I'm like, okay, so you guys ready to get started? And they like, they thought they was waiting on somebody else because I looked so young. They thought they were waiting on someone, and I'm like, no, I'm ready to get started. This is it.
Yeah.
Fair and I, this is it.
Yeah.
And it's the same way on the branding side a little bit because we're new to it, right? And so you have a lot of companies, a lot of reputable companies, very successful, capable companies that have been a part of it, but we're also bringing a different taste. And so I think we lean on that part of it while growing, its foundation, so we can build the house as firmly as we know we can. So it's all great, though. I don't need to go 0 to 100. Yeah. It's okay. It's all good.
So it's no secret that the last year we saw explosive growth in women's athletics. Long overdue. Didn't happen overnight, happened over, frankly, multiple decades of work and incredible play from our players. We've got some of our Washington Mystics players here actually taking it in, which is great. Tell us about what you're most excited about from a KLUTCH perspective for sort of the next generation of female athlete as, you know, women's professional sports continues to become bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I think, you know, we have 4 women's Olympians this year, play on the gold medal team. We're invested. We really are. And obviously, you know, we have from an NIL perspective as well as you know, professional. We're invested. I definitely know it's changing. Obviously, don't take a blind person to see that. I think we want to be careful with it, though. I think we have to learn from the mistakes that we made on the men's side as it pertains to how fast we grow, to make sure we're not, you know, we're not stretching so far that it comes to hurt the women years down the road. Like, I don't want that to be an excuse for them like it was for the men. I think, you know, I always look at the women and I think they play a better brand of ball. They always have, you know, and I've been saying that since Nashima Hillman was my neighbor many years ago. I think that from a marketing perspective, brands are starting to lean more. I know that for a fact. We actually, and you know the players we have, our marketing numbers in terms of dollars made this year, LeBron excluded, was led by 2 women.
Wow, that's amazing.
Which was actually pretty cool. And we have these marketing meetings bi-weekly, and the numbers rolling in were led by Asia and Juju. One is an NIL, and you know the deal I just did for Juju is probably the largest footwear deal. It is, not probably. It's the largest footwear deal on a men's or women's side since probably Zion, you know, which is...
That's a pretty big deal.
She's still in college, so it's a pretty big deal. And so, you know, I'm excited to see where it's going. Again, I wanna, in my opinion, we should handle it with a lot of care. Obviously, you got to get the travel right, but as well as the travel, their recovery and things of that nature, like they shouldn't have anything lesser than the men have, right? When you buy a machine for the men, you buy a machine for the women, right? It's the same thing. In addition to, obviously, we know that the TV deal is going to go up and things like that. How does that affect their cap and their contracts or whatnot? They opted out, so we'll see where that goes. But there's a lot of mistakes that we made on the men's side that I think that we should learn from. And if the women's side of the business asks for our help, we should give it in a way in which we want them to be kind of, what I would say is not using AI, for example, but really kind of being forward thinking as it pertains to them. And the other thing I would not do, and this probably is not a popular comment here, but I don't think we need too many teams too soon. You know, I think there's another way to approach it, and obviously you got to have you want to provide opportunity, but it's not, you know, expand. You know, I think there's a world where you can really focus on the product and lead from that perspective, if it makes sense.
So you mentioned AI, it's 2024, so we should ask you about AI. Are you guys thinking about AI in any of your practice, any data analysis?
Yeah, no, you have to. I mean, well, obviously Karen's group has to think about it. I think AI is usable and effective and enhances things in every other area except for the performance on the court. So yeah, can use it. Actually, this year at our summit, our baseball group actually presented in AI, which was pretty cool. It was actually pretty cool, but it's expensive, but it was pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, look, it's something that I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm just this AI guru, because I'm not.
Yep.
We have AI for dummies come to our board meeting and try to teach us as much, because you know, in Hollywood, it's the biggest talk, right?
But also a potential threat too.
Huge threat, yeah. And so that's something that we've been really keen in on, but it hasn't hit the live space yet, so I don't think we have to worry about it from that perspective, but we do in all the other areas.
So we're running low on time, so let's get to the buy, sell, hold section of our questionnaire here. Private equity investing in some form of college athletics. Buy, sell, or hold?
I don't know. It's a double-edged sword here. I'm a buy, but I think NIL should come with a contractual agreement to really start to lessen what I would say, the negative perception and behavior within the transfer portal and things like that. Like, if we're gonna have student athletes get paid, we should teach them the proper way and the obligations that come with actually being paid. And so, if you sign with Ohio State, for that matter, and you sign an NIL deal for $3 million, then that should come with a term. 2 years, 3 years, whatever the case may be. But that way you're not signing with Ohio State for $3 million this year and then you're going to TCU for $4 million next year, because it's going to hurt the purity of the game. Now, we got the pay, that's fine. But now we have to figure out how to structure it properly to where, one, we're educating the athlete because we have to prepare them. They have to pay taxes and all these things. They have to diversify their portfolio in a very managed way and things like that. And if we can do this, then yes, I don't mind. I buy the private equity aspect of it, because what don't have private equity? Shit, agent is private equity at this point.
There's a lot to unpack there. Timely, because the Wizards are playing the Heat in Mexico City this weekend. Buy, sell, or hold global expansion of U.S. major professional sports leagues?
I think I buy when we figure out the travel. Good food and art in Mexico City.
Yeah, there
sure.
you go. Good reason to attend.
But yeah, I buy that.
Buy, sell, or hold a Super Bowl played outside of North America in the future?
I'm going to sell that one. Yeah, I'm going to sell that one.
Okay. And last one, buy, sell, hold youth sports as a smart investment paying solid returns?
I'm going to buy that one. Yeah, buy.
There you have it. Thank you so much, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of On Stage. If this conversation with Rich Paul gave you a fresh perspective on leadership, representation, or long game thinking, subscribe, leave us a review, and share with anyone working at the intersection of sports, culture, and media. Here's a simple question to take with you. Are you building something that will still matter 10 years from now? Send me your thoughts at tbloom@sportsbusinessjournal.com. We'll be back next week with another exclusive conversation from a leader shaping the future of sports business. Until then, stay tuned and stay ahead. This is On Stage.